Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we grow again. It is a magnificent Monday here in the studio as I record, and I have a little surprise for you guys. Actually, is a surprise for me too, because up until about 10 minutes ago, I thought I was going to be recording a solo episode. And I was, going to be doing that after I completed a little meetup I had with some friends and, more than friend. There's three of us here. No, it's not you, Seth. That would be Karen. That would be Karen.
I was just guessing.
You can dream, though. You can dream. So I have my good friends Seth, Dan, my partner Karen here with me. We were meeting up, talking about a prosperity portal we're going to be all facilitating on New Year's Eve, going into 2024, numerologically, an 8-year. We decided that would be an awesome way to kick off the new year. We were kind of getting together to talk about our different contributions to that prosperity portal. And as I was about to come and cut away to record this podcast, I decided, hey, you guys come with me. Why don't we talk a little bit about it? You can share some of your wisdom and insights and what you're going to be contributing. And I just thought it would make for a great impromptu podcast. So here we are. Why don't you say hi, everyone?
Hello, everyone. Here we grow again.
Here we grow again.
Hello.
Say who you are. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
It's me.
I'm Dan.
Hey, all you crazy cats and kittens out there in TV land. This is Seth Infinity Monk coming at you live from the Mystic Manor.
He's very good at the radio thing.
He really is.
This is Karen, Brandon's partner, who I know you guys hear a little bit about.
You two have been on before.
Seth
true.
I've been on
Karen.
once,
Dan,
a long
you
time
haven't
ago.
been on, huh?
No, I have.
All right. So,
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
Ages ago.
I forgot. All three of you. Okay, these are all past characters in the great positive head play that we're participating in here. And so why don't you guys share what...
I'll share a little bit more about this prosperity portal New Year's Eve thing that we're doing. So this came through because we do every 2 months here at Mystic Manor, we have these transformational festivals for a day. And I've been producing them now for the last year and a half. And
she's very good at it.
Thank you, Dan. Each one has a theme, and this one for New Year's Eve, because it is 2024, and numerologically that adds up to 8. And so the theme idea of tuning to abundance came through. That was the first bit of information. And then I started to think about, okay, how are we going to make this happen? How can we really create an experience for people where they get to have that experience of tuning to abundance? And I thought of Dan, who also goes by the Magic Mechanic, and I thought of Seth Monk, each guiding something to assist people with that. But then as we got talking, Brandon chimed in and said, well, I want to do something. I mean, he wrote a whole book about the golden key, modern alchemy to unlock infinite abundance. So this is definitely his wheelhouse. And I'm really excited because very unique to this event. Other events, typically there's multiple workshops and they're curated around a theme, but each one is a standalone experience, but has some cohesiveness. But what we're doing here is a full cohesive portal. That's why we're calling it this prosperity portal, where each of these men, who we were calling the three kings, each of these three kings have their own unique offering. But what's evolved over the last week is we're really making it a co-creation where we're all collaborating. And so they each have their elements and specific magic and wisdom and insights that they're bringing, but that will take people through a 5 to 6 hour journey from start to finish that is designed to release any resistance that we have to receiving, any blockages to actually accessing that abundance, and then attuning to our fields to the abundance that is our birthright, and doing it collectively to amplify the magic of it.
Amen.
Can you tell anyone who read The Golden Key, can you tell Karen helped tremendously with editing and rewriting a few pieces in there? I noticed you said a couple things from the book, or at least one. So yeah, one thing I will throw out real quick is, 8 being in both modern and Chinese, ancient and modern Chinese culture. It's the symbol for abundance. My brother lives on the 8th floor, and it's like every Chinese person wants to live on that floor in his building because there's a lot of Chinese folks in that city, because it sounds phonetically similar to the word for abundance, and it's just known. Of course, you have the infinity symbol, and of course, we all are infinite abundance, as we talk about in the Golden Key. So, it's a very exciting thing to tap into and to sort of ride that wave. And why don't you two guys also talk about, sort of your contribution? What I'm going to do is share a bit of sort of my story. Many of you listening for a long time know, but people that come to the Mystic Manor and for this live event, many of them don't know my whole journey with abundance and the ups and downs and roller coaster ride that I've been on. Which, by the way, if you happen to be in LA on New Year's, please, you can follow. I'll put links to everyone's, Instagram or whatever you guys want to share. And of course, the Mystic Manor LA is our page on Instagram for this place and all of our events. So I'll just throw that out there as well.
Nice. And obviously Seth's OnlyFans will be on there.
Yeah, Seth's OnlyFans, Dan's OnlyFans.
It's actually only monks.
Only monks.
Mine's Feet Finder.
So we were also thinking, besides this being an improv episode, it would be a little improv comedy as well, just to keep things light.
Yeah.
I actually have a lot of jokes about unemployment, but none of them work.
Yeah.
I had a really good joke about Alzheimer's, but I forgot it.
Oh my God.
We apologize to all of the people out there with dementia and that are jobless. We hold you in the highest regard.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And on that note,
this is what I get for bringing 3 kings together.
Or peasants,
It's actually just 3 boys underneath the crowns.
3 jesters.
Yeah.
definitely jesters.
So let me then dive in there and kind of piggyback on something that Brandon mentioned in terms of that. This is Seth Monk, by the way.
Not Karen. No, he's got
Not
a lovely
Karen.
voice.
Yeah.
It can be confusing.
She did not come of age all of a sudden. Okay, so, something that Brandon kind of hit upon briefly was that we are infinite abundance. And a lot of the classes that I've been teaching here in LA, I use the metaphor of an ocean and a wave. And, there's a wave in the ocean, and that wave feels like it's this cool thing, and it's got this shape, and it's this individual, and it's moving through the sea, and it is really proud of itself, and there's waves in front of it and behind it that it's staring at. But that wave arose out of the ocean, and eventually when it crashes, it again becomes the ocean. And at any point on that wave's journey, it could also reconnect to the fact that it is just water, and it is also part of this greater whole. And it is actually the same. It is connected to the waves in front of it and behind it. This goes very deep also into Buddhist understanding. So I was a Buddhist monk for 8 years. And Thich Nhat Hanh often talks about this. Yeah, there's the number 8 again.
Eight,
There you
yeah,
go. It's happening. Thich Nhat Hanh, you know, one of his books, the first page, it says, you know, if you look deeply at this page, you will see a cloud. Because that cloud had to produce rain, and that rain is what helped to grow the tree. And that tree is what was cut down to create this piece of paper. And
Cool.
if you look even closer, you could see the lumberjack, and you could see the lumberjack's wife who made him a sandwich to go, you know, it's still gender roles, but, and it kind of went into the fact that there's actually a Zen expression that says you could see the universe in a grain of rice. And that if you look deeply into anything, you can see everything. And so when we talk about abundance, starting from the place of remembering and accepting and acknowledging that we are already everything, that anything you could ever want and also not want is also already a part of you. And then, so why are we only receiving certain information? Why are we only experiencing certain parts of the spectrum of all things? And what can we shift to start experiencing something new, knowing that we could technically, possibly experience everything. So that's kind of the launching off point for myself in this, is just remembering if you're everything, then all is possible. And now how can we start choosing what is coming into our reality?
Yeah, yeah. I think of this and speak about this quite a bit. It's like God, source, higher self, the universe. It is it all. And the only question ever being posed to all of us is, what part of it all do you want to experience next? Right? It is all there as an extension of you. And it's so easy for us to fall into the illusion of separation and, you know, okay, this thing out there is not a part of me. And I think if we can, I always talk about social media as an example, because we fall into so much comparison with like, oh my gosh, look at her, or look at them, or look at what they've got. I could never do that. Instead, taking and reframing that as like, oh wow, out of the infinite things vying for my attention, this is such a close vibrational match. I'm actually seeing it in my field, this thing I admire or want. So I'm getting ever closer to it, as opposed to creating more separation. You're calling it in and pulling it in. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the classic thing people do that they don't really call out to examine in themselves. Like let's say you're someone who was barely making it by, you know, months and months ago, and then the inflation thing happened and all the prices went up, and then you're going to the shop and you're paying the money and you're thinking, oh crap, I only have $20 left and I've got to pay rent and blah blah blah. And every time you are using your money, you are thinking and casting a spell of, I don't have enough, I don't have enough. And you're reaffirming over and over and over and casting that spell. And the problem is that pattern, it's a completely logical pattern based on materialist thinking and what we've been taught and how we've been taught to think about cause and effect and all that kind of stuff. But what we don't realize is how much that affects us actually being able to shift that. And it's all well and good being able to develop new habits and so forth. And, you know, we can do that and that helps. But one thing that isn't really looked at is what came before inflation, what came before all that. Why do we fall into that belief pattern? Even though you can speak to anyone and relate that experience and relate that feeling to most people who live in a city, who were brought up in a city, what came before that? And I guarantee you, every time there's some kind of lack of love that happened, or some pattern they saw where they weren't getting enough, they never felt safe, they didn't feel supported enough. Every damn time. And it's been enormously valuable for me to look into all that for myself as well as others, because in doing that, I've been able to see what is really holding people back. And you know, one of my dearest friends who works she's a Yoruban priest, and she sees a lot. She sees a lot of people come in with different conditions. But one of the things that she keeps echoing to me is money doesn't come from people. That's the misconception. Money comes from source. And money's just one parcel that prosperity comes through.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't believe you deserve it, if you don't examine what led you from, you know, all the way back to here, you're just going to keep repeating that pattern. That pattern will come back again unless you go back.
Yeah.
Anytime it gets stressful, you know?
Yeah.
So
And Dan, can you share for those that are listening what your particular like magic is? Because you were one of the first people I thought of to be a part of this prosperity portal because you really do money magic. You know, it's a very specific and cool offering that he has to support people with this. And yeah, I don't know too many people that have the like such a specific and cool process to actually handle this, because a lot of it can be so it's so intellectual and it's this conception and I can think about it and meditate it and understand it, but to be able to have like, okay, here are some actual actions and steps that you can take to work through and move some of this energy. So I'd love to just have, if you could share a little bit more about your specific magic.
Sure. Okay. So for the process, you know what? I'll talk about a case study because that's the most real, easy to illustrate way I can do it. So I had a friend of mine, and I was staying at her house, and she let me just, this is the boring long version. I'll just skip to the good bits. She was running a company and she needed investment. She needed an investment of about 150K, and she was really wheezing, having a hard time. And I tuned in for her and went, okay, what's going on? And I felt that all the energy she was wanting to call in was just waiting to come in. And it felt like, okay, what's holding this back? And then I talked to her and I said, okay, tell me what's going on. Maybe that'll give me some insight. And she told me, firstly, there was a person cursing her, which I thought was interesting. And then second, the second thing she said was, well, it's just that time where, investment money's dry and no one's spending money and blah, 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 all beliefs that are probably based on what she's seeing in cause and effect and, whatever she's conditioned herself to believe in. And maybe not aware of that. So I felt into the field again and I felt, okay, this person who's cursing her, what's going on here? And it felt like, no, that's not actually happening. There's a belief that someone's cursing her, and in that she is disempowering herself. So her field has been coded with the belief, I'm not powerful enough to overcome the anger of someone else aimed towards me. Right? So that was a simple fix, because I just had to show her, okay, here's how, firstly, let's use reason to show you how this person has not much of an effect on you at all. So we did that. So she was able to challenge her belief and go, oh, actually, okay, yeah, I can see how this person isn't powerful and I'm actually powerful. Thank you. And we did a little work energetically to help her actually hold that energy and develop it a bit more. So that was one piece of it. And then when we did that, I could feel her field open, her heart open, and then she wasn't feeling so weak against, something she'd empowered. The second part was, okay, how do we get her to connect with this wealth of energy coming towards her? Because that's what it felt like in the field. It wasn't even money. It just felt like, here's this thickness of light. That's what it felt like. And it just wanted to come in. And she was just like, holding her arms out in some kind
of story of a monster that was,
yeah,
keeping her at bay.
Basically, but the real story was that she wasn't believing in her ability to receive. And the underlying thing was that she just didn't believe that she could do this, even though she was showing herself time and time again how phenomenally capable she was at doing things that most people don't bother doing, like starting successful businesses or businesses that then become successful. Right. But yeah, the last part was simply working on that energy for her. And the way I did that was to go into what I was reading in her subconscious and to treat that energetically. That's not what I do for, say, in a workshop setting, because in a workshop setting, I'll be guiding people to do that for themselves. And that's what we use the dream for. But for this particular person and in that particular mode where I'm in service, I'm the one doing that stuff. But I will give them things to do so they can sustain the energy. Because one of the things about using magic for bringing in prosperity is that you're essentially, unless you're dealing with the root and helping someone sustain a change in themselves, you're basically giving them crutches. Yeah. And eventually they will forget how to walk if they don't know how to throw the crutches off and run on their own.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a, it's a balance. But the process is usually the same. Find where the disempowerment is, heal that, and then find where the subconscious block is, or not block. I don't like using the word block, because what ends up happening is that we're casting that form on an energy that is really just a blind spot. All blocks are blind spots, but we call them blocks because we feel them like blocks. So subconscious blind spot. That's it. So we treat that, and then the energy moves.
Yeah, and then energy does what it does naturally, right? Which is moved, and it moves, and the flow of life and currency starts flowing, and abundance starts flowing, because that is your natural birthright. If you're not missing key things with these blind spots, and or imagining monsters hiding behind the corner that are cursing you, right?
We're basically, all of us together, we're all pieces, we're all like little batteries on a gigantic circuit, and everything that prevents the energy coming through is a resistor on a circuit. Like a resistor on a circuit is just a thing that resists a certain amount of energy so it doesn't burn something on the circuit, right? But our resistors prevent us receiving the energy from, I guess, the larger battery to fill our battery. And those resistors are subconscious beliefs. And that's it. And the moment that candle burnt out, she got a phone call with someone investing money in her business.
Well, I love that. And, part of this portal that we're creating on New Year's is going to be some candle magic, right?
Yep.
And what I love about those sorts of things, I think Bashar talks about a permission slip. It's like a ritual, just giving the energy to a ritual, creating a container where enough people are believing, and you have 30, 50, however many people we have, that will be there, all putting their energy into this and all believing and all opened our hearts through these, this whole experience. That is the real magic of it. And then just giving, something as a tool to kind of, embedded into is
the permission slip.
Right.
Yeah, it's that permission slip, and I love the candle magic as well, because we get to like pour our energy into this, and then we'll light it with that shared intention, and then that's lit through the whole party, and we'll stay lit into the new year. And it's this continued permission slip when you have that candle burning to keep looking back at it and remembering and paying attention and retuning ourselves to what we cultivated together. So it's great to have that physical representation of all of the, energetic and intellectual work that we're doing.
When you charge a candle, you're essentially implanting a piece of material something with the energy of a tiny wizard that is basically continuing to do that energy work on your behalf. So we'll have like 30 to 50 people creating a tiny little wizard inside a candle.
So a tiny wizard workshop.
Sounds like a party, right?
So Dan,
Yes.
magic mechanic. If the blocks are subconscious,
Yes.
how does one find them?
Ooh. Well, we go into the dream, and in the dream, it's basically you and your subconscious. So you don't know what's going to come up. And, I guess I spoiled some stuff that I shouldn't have done. But screw it. Here we are. It's too late now.
It's okay.
Okay, we can edit it out. It's fine.
No,
Or not.
It's fine.
It's fine.
There's people that are listening to this.
One thing to hear
we
about
could really
it is
serve right
nothing to
now
do
if
it,
we
yeah.
explain.
Okay. Well, when you go into the dream, you don't know what's going to come up. And it's not an intellectual process. It's intellectual in the sense that it's a process, but when you're in it and you're fully surrendered and you're in that brainwave, you don't know what's going to come up. And yeah, that's it. People are usually surprised with what emerges, and oftentimes it's not what they expect. I guess I'm just saying redundant shit now. Yeah.
But the dream, it's like a guided trance state of some sort that you lead people into, yes?
Yeah. It's a shamanic journey. Cool. But when I say the dream state, it's in the Toltec linguistics. Right now we're in a dream. We're in the waking dream, and in the waking dream, it is your emotional being filtered through your intellectual, which is why we have a commonplace interpretation of everything we're experiencing reality. In the sleeping dream or the trance dream, it is the intellectual filtered through the emotional. So you cannot, when people try to break down a dream intellectually, fuck that, doesn't work. You have to empath with all the elements in the dream, and then you get the real information about what the dream's about. But yeah, the dream state is all frequency. So yeah, it's good fun.
Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking The Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting and someone will get back to you. So Seth, why don't you tell us a little bit about your contribution and piece?
I was thinking that I would do a slow striptease.
Oh, okay. All right.
Where,
that is abundant.
There you go.
where I would start off wearing a ceremonial monk robe and
Very slinky number.
and slowly reveal what was beneath
Is it the cod piece?
or what wasn't beneath.
Oh. Okay. No cod piece this time.
So if any of you feel like flying out to LA for this event,
lost some
it's
people.
worth it.
Yeah.
So I've recently been studying under a man by the name of Donnie Epstein, who created a new branch of chiropractics called Network Spinal. He's actually Tony Robbins' personal body worker, we'll call it that, energy worker. And Tony actually flies him around the world with him, that he helps kind of get Tony aligned and jived up before he gets on stage.
We had John Emerald on the show a long time ago who worked really closely with him and then kind of started his own thing. So
Right,
we
yeah.
heard a little bit about him.
And so I was recently at something called the Total Donnie Experience in Lake Como, Italy, which was just kind of 4 days with him. And one of my main takeaways is that Donnie continuously said the sentence that drilled into my mind, which obviously was something I needed to hear. And it was, what if you could change everything without changing everything? Anything.
Yeah. What if you could change everything?
I'll say that again. What if you could change everything without changing anything? And he said it is effortless. And he was saying, look, if we're here as part of this global awakening, this awakening of humanity, this 8 billion people, we're not going to get everybody into a seminar room. We're not going to have everyone read the books and do the things. There has to be a way for this to happen instantly, effortlessly. Without doing anything, we can change everything. And that sentence has just been playing in my head kind of like as a mantra. And I've just been slowly jiving with it and letting it kind of play out. And what does it actually mean to live life in a way that is effortless? How can I live more in that state of of attraction and magnetization. And, you know, the example, it's, you know, if you're rowing a boat upstream, rowing a little canoe upstream, and the effort that takes going and going and going versus the feeling of pulling up that paddle and just letting that boat flow downstream, right? The difference in those feelings of working and pushing and trying and striving versus that feeling of actually just letting yourself go with the flow. And the more that I've been applying that into my life, the more I see that there's a lot of answers that are already there for me. I'd actually have to tell a little story about that.
Sure.
So as I was leaving Lake Como, Italy, at 7 a.m, I was going to order a car back to Malpensa Airport in Milan, Malpensa. And a friend of mine said, you know, instead of paying €150 for a private car, you could just take the bus to the train station and go there. And I was like, oh, cool. So she printed out for me like the directions and what to, you know, so I was like, okay. So I went to the bus stop, and as I got there, the bus was starting to leave the bus stop, and I kind of waved my hand, and he stopped, and I got on, and I was like, okay, phew, made it, you know, bought my ticket on the bus. And I looked around, there's like all these kids on the bus going to school, and it was like really sweet. And then I look up, and, you know, it's bus number 110, and I look down at my paper, and it said, take bus 120.
Oh.
So my flight is at 11:20, right? So I'm like, all right, I planned it kind of pretty well that I'd get to the airport right when I needed to, but I was like, all right. And I went up to the front and I said to the guy, you know, does this go to the train station? And he didn't speak English. So we had a moment, and I held up the paper, and he looked, and eventually he was like, oh yeah. This goes, just wait. He said, wait. So I was like, okay. So I wait on this bus, gets to the end of the line, arrives at the train station. I get out at the train station. There's 4 tracks. I don't know which one I'm supposed to take. Kind of countryside train station. There wasn't really many people around. I went downstairs. I found a janitor closet with a janitor sitting in the middle of it, this Indian man. I was like, do you speak English? He said, yeah. I was like, great. I'm trying to get to Malpensa Airport, and I showed him the paper. He goes, oh, you're at the wrong train station. I was like, great. And he said, but don't worry. Take track 1, and you'll go to Sapporo, and then you'll take track 1 there, and it'll get you to Malpensa. Cool. So the train pulls up. I get on the train, you know, 45 minutes into the trip. The conductor or whatever, the guy, not the conductor, but the ticket taker came, and he takes my ticket, and he looks at it, and he looks at me, and he says, where are you going? I said, Malpensa. And he goes, Malpensa? And I said, oh yeah, but, you know, Sapporo. And he goes, oh, this train goes to Giovanni. He's like, you're on the wrong train.
Oh my God.
And I said, he said, but don't worry, you could take it. You could take it from Giovanni to Centro, and from Centro to Malpensa. I'm like, what time would I get there? And he said 10:30. And I said, my flight's at 11:20. That's not going to work. But he's just, you know, it's not his problem. So I had the brilliant idea, and I said, why don't I check in on my phone? So I can check in, and that way when I get to the airport, I can just slide in, doesn't matter. So I get out my phone, open it up, check in for my flight, you know, print ticket, screenshot it, open it up, and I'm like, all right, just to make sure, it's like 11:20 yet, and it said, you know, going to actually London Heathrow, and it said,
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and it said, you know, and it said, and, you know, leaving from Linate Airport. And I said, no, I'm leaving from Malpensa Airport.
No.
And it said Linate. I'm like, but I flew into Malpensa, but the ticket right there says Linate. And I was like, well, fuck. You know? And I was like, well, where the fuck is Linate Airport? And I opened up my maps, and the train that I was on was going to Linate Airport.
No way. Amazing.
So
That's
I
wild.
took the wrong bus to the wrong train station, to the wrong train, to the wrong airport, which turned out to be the right airport.
Wow.
In fact, the only thing that was wrong about the entire morning was that I thought that I was supposed to be going somewhere else.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
But everyone else was sending you to the wrong place that was the right place.
That's the ultimate metaphor.
That's fucking awesome.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. What if it was effortless? And what if all the effort that we've been putting in is because we're trying to force the outcome that we think we want,
Yep.
but actually there's a whole other journey that we're being brought on. So for my portion of the event, I really want to guide people to that place where we release what we think we're after and allow ourselves to connect to where we're actually headed and to really connect to the effortless possibilities of what's there waiting for us. And as you mentioned, abundance is not just money. As a monk of 8 years, I didn't touch money for 8 years, but I was abundant as fuck. I was abundant in community. I was abundant in wisdom. I was abundant in health. I was abundant in so many different ways that I didn't actually even need to touch money because people brought food to me.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, money is not even the point. Money is a vessel that people think is their wish-fulfilling jewel, that once I get money, then I can get all the things. So money is always just a means to an end anyway for people. So really just connecting to the fullness of what we are and to the universe, which we are. We are the universe. We are not separate. We are the universe. We can actually see that we are very specifically being guided somewhere. Every tree, every animal, every hill on this entire earth is there for a reason, was put there in a specific way through forces. It all has its place. Somehow we think we don't belong. Somehow we think we're like a lost accident, but every tree, even the placement that it drops its pine cone exactly is right there where it's supposed to be. So all of us are playing a very specific and important role here on this earth. And it's really time for us to wake up to that and to step into the moreness of what we have, of what we are, of what we could be when we release these limitations we've been putting on ourselves.
And effortlessly. I think Karen and I talk about this a lot. And, over the last 4 years that we've been together, she's seen how, and Dan knows this, having been around the Manor a whole lot, staying here. Like I'm someone who's learned really the hard way of like, you don't have to just grind and work harder to create more. And I've literally gotten to the point of, in the last few years, of just sort of exhaustion with too many projects, spinning too many plates, trying too hard, and just like, I don't care about anything anymore other than just being at peace and calmly doing whatever I'm doing. And the more I get into that state, the more things effortlessly unfold. And it's like, oh man, if I'd only figured this out 30 years ago or whatever. And it's all in divine time, of course. But
babe, what's the mantra that I always say to you? Do you remember?
You always say you don't need to do anything.
Yeah, that's what I always say to him. I go, see, you don't need to do anything. Right. Because time and time again, I see, and it's for myself as well. It's like we work and we work and we work and we do. We're both such busy bees and generators. But when we take a pause and we go out to lunch and we're doing something outside of our workday, our dues, then all of a sudden the email comes through, the sale comes through, like whatever it is that we're waiting for, suddenly it's like it comes through. And then so I say to him, I'm like, we don't have to do anything. And, this event itself, actually, the inspiration is a really good example for that. Because the reason it's a mantra that I say to him is because it's a mantra I made for myself. Because I am definitely someone who I can have these moments of like, if I'm not doing something, I feel like I start to have these self-worth issues and like that there's something wrong with that. And I don't deserve to be relaxing. And it's something that I work through. And so this event, I took 2 weeks from the last event. I give myself of like, okay, I'm going to intentionally not do anything for this event because I trust that the inspiration will flow through. And what I found with all of these events is when I create the space and actually intentionally not do anything for the event, it creates the space for the universe to deliver to me what the event wants to be.
Right.
And so
yeah,
exactly. And so this event actually was planned last Friday night, was it? Brandon and I are big Christmas fans. And so we decided to, before Thanksgiving, decorate our whole room with Christmas decorations and
you gotta
create
have
a winter
magic
wonderland.
As long as you can have any excuse for magic.
Exactly. And I, that day, like we were actually going to have to stay up pretty late to do it. And I was having this experience of like I should be working. I need to focus on the event. I haven't planned anything for the event. And again, just reminded myself, okay, you don't need to do anything. And it was actually in the state that we created, like through decorating with, just getting into that state of fun and childlike play, where I had this moment where I was sitting on the couch and just thinking about the event and thinking about abundance and what could we do. And I thought, my God, Dan, magic mechanic, he should do money magic. And I was like, Seth needs to have his own portion. Like, that would be perfect. And then I brought it up with Brandon. He's like, I want to do my portion. And suddenly the vision and the inspiration for the event just came pouring through. And the next day I woke up, I got in the hot tub, I started sending voice messages, texts, started taking notes. And I pretty much planned the entire event in like a 3-hour stint because it was just pouring out of me. And that's just what I found, where it's like, you don't have to do anything, because when you create the space, it can't not happen. It can't not come through.
Yeah, I love
Beautiful.
that. I love that. Wow. Oh, well, yeah. So any of you guys, I mean, like I said, we literally were meeting to make our first initial plans of how we even co-create this thing together. And then, as I said, I needed to peel off to go record the podcast. I was like, hey, you guys come with me. And this is completely unplanned. And I know there's a lot of benefit that you guys are getting from this. And of course, any of you who are in LA, very easy to make it. And if not, you would want to journey to the left coast and check out our event. You can follow. I'll put links in the show notes here. But
well, it's tinyurl.com/mysticnye.
tinyurl.com /mysticnye for New Year's Eve. And
hold me closer, tiny URL.
yes, there will be a Seth at 3 a.m. singing that song.
Oh my gosh.
In his codpiece.
Yes,
Oh
of course.
I just want to add, I mean, even just this experience that we're having now, it's like, this is from us just relaxing into what is wanting to happen. Like earlier today, I know Brandon, you're stressing like, oh, how long is this going to take? Cause I got to record my podcast later. And it's like, we flowed with it, and we got so much out of just like spending time with each other. And we're just, by tapping into this like childlike play that you guys all hold so well, so much is flowing from it. And now we have this incredible podcast and really good memory. And it doubles as, inspiration for the people that are listening that can't come to the event because they are far away, but now they get to tune in a little bit to what we're creating. And then it also creates a really great way for us to communicate to our community that is here in LA, what's happening. And it's just, I don't know, it's like overflowing with abundance.
Anything else you two want to add? Bad jokes?
Please just...
Smart remarks?
No, end it.
Wisdom?
Please, cut.
She knows what's coming.
Cut.
Well, there's your section as well. Do you want to... Did you talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I touched
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that then. All right, well...
Okay, okay.
You want to go for a joke?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
I do, but
Okay.
the ones in my mind right now cause a
not
lot of
appropriate.
backlash for Brennan. What is the one takeaway from everything we've talked about and from everything we're going to be doing on New Year's Eve that you have these people listening? What's the one piece around abundance that more than anything else you just really want to make sure that everybody gets?
I love that.
I can speak first because it's so clear to me as someone, just really reiterating what I was saying a few minutes ago. I'm someone who has chased financial abundance or doing so. I mean, my initials, as you guys know, are BBB, or those of you listening for a long time know. It's no coincidence. I'm here to figure out how to be and stop doing so much. There is a time and a place to do, but coming from the right energy, not from an energy of lack. And so many of us do that. And I've done it so much of my life. And the universe has really toyed with me, like with dangling carrots and, chasing things. And, just once we can really tap into this idea that you are truly, this isn't just some woo-woo concept. You literally are the universe experience in itself. You are the same stuff that made this whole planet, the whole cosmos, beyond this universe, beyond the physical. You are one with that ocean of energy. It is you, you are it. So are you abundant? You built this place. You are this place. Like think of all the gold on all the planets across all the universes. That is a part of an extension of you. And that's just physically speaking. So it is your birthright. And the only thing that gets in the way of it you're so powerful. You can have the experience of cutting yourself off from abundance, and we've all done that. But even that is a gift, only a tool, so that once you choose it again, it can actually mean something, and you can have the contrast. And that's really the dance that we're all involved in this very moment. And so the question being posed once again is, what part of it all do you want to experience now? Do you want to experience lack of abundance? That is a tool and is useful, so that when you decide to tap back into the deeper truth of who and what you are, it actually means something. And so once you can relax, there's, knowing that you have infinitely been held, you've always had enough to get you to the next moment. Imagine if you had a life, not just however many years ago you were born, but infinite, before a billion years, a trillion years on it. And yet here you are in the middle of that experience, still with enough to get by and to survive and to get to the next moment. And you always will have enough to get to the next moment. And once you can tap into that, you can put down the fight for survival or to achieve, and just allow it to flow in the way that we've all been talking about here today.
Beautiful.
Nice.
No more dangling carrots.
Gosh, I'm sick of carrot. I don't even like carrots that much.
Dangling carrot is actually the name of my striptease routine. That's a different topic.
Oh, God. I'm glad we brought that back.
Very, very late night.
I'm glad we circled back to that.
Is the codpiece a carrot as well?
Now,
just to keep it on theme?
for our American viewers, does everyone know what a codpiece is?
I don't even know.
That's
and I'm
actually
scared to
that's
ask.
not a. I don't know if that's a term in our country.
Okay, well, in the UK, the royals would wear these penis-like objects that were very regal, jewelry-like on their groin area, and that was a codpiece.
Talk about having so much time and abundance and energy. They would actually create these things and wear them because they had nothing else to do. There's too much abundance around.
And it was based off the tribal decoration. When you see those images of tribal people with kind of things that look like erections.
I see.
It's based off that.
It's functional.
Yeah, I
Protective.
mean, you could have like a bird perch on it or something.
This feels like an important piece of the integration that you asked for, Seth.
It brings a new meaning to woodpecker, doesn't it?
Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect.
So how about you? What's the one kind of takeaway that you...
I'm actually dancing between two separate things.
You
so
have to choose one.
I've got to choose one.
We're not
you know
that
what?
abundant.
I'll choose
long.
one. It is, isn't it? Okay.
We're giving them an abundance of podcasting.
There you go.
So this is fitting into actually what Brandon said, but it is applicable to the whole thing. And I experienced this on plant medicine. And what essentially happened was I got into contact with the experience of what it really means to feel in contact with the all, to be part of all. I had a visceral experience of that. I think people who either meditate for a really long time get to meet this concept, or they take the Pescawite in the jungle and they get to try it there. But for me, I essentially was given the perspective that we as individuals, or in the individual experience, we have the motor functions, right? I don't need to tell you what those are. And then we have the emotional sense. The emotional sense is the one that we tend to not really talk about, but it is really important, because what the emotional sense gives us is that language to have an experience within ourselves. Right now, if you then consider the all as this giant mega being, and we're all these tiny hairs, right, on its giant head, just as a visual, right? We are not just this singular thing, we are a super sense, because we have these motor functions, but we have our personality as an additional filter of an experience of consciousness. And one being is essentially experiencing all these things, having conflict with one another, and then resolving conflict, and then learning and growing and expanding. And we're constantly having this atomic process through the process of being. Why the fuck is that important? Well, if you can understand that you're just valid as being you, and you can really ground into that and not keep tripping up over how you should be you, and what you're screwing up, and how other people tell you need to be, and how other people tell you need to be spiritual, all of that madness, and just ground into what is the experience of being me, and how do I get to do it? You're doing everything you're supposed to be fucking doing.
Wow.
And you tune into that and things just start flowing.
Absolutely.
And that's just another way to connect with that energy.
You're kind of like the occult Mr. Rogers over here.
Oh, thank you. I'm not familiar with Mr. Rogers in a larger sense. I've only seen him in the memes because we didn't have him in the UK.
Yeah.
We had other
You've
people
only seen him in the memes.
who unfortunately were outed as pedophiles in that whole BBC thing.
He was not one of them.
I don't think he was. He seemed
He was
legit.
a Navy SEAL.
He was legit. That's actually not true also.
Oh, really?
That's just one of those Instagram things that's not real.
man.
I looked into
Sucked
that.
in.
He did, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Oh my
we had
gosh.
Jimmy Savile, Tony Hart, and Gary Glitter, and all of them ended up
Gary
as
Glitter.
criminals.
Well,
With a
Gary
name like
Glitter.
Larry Glitter, you had to come in.
Were we not expecting that?
So yeah,
Oh my
our
gosh.
childhoods were ruined in the UK.
But
God.
and that was not Tony Hawk. That was
No,
Tony Hawk.
no, Tony Hawk is wonderful.
Okay.
I wish him all the best.
Okay. My takeaway that I want to leave people with is this idea when you are in the habit, in the pattern of resisting, it can feel like the hardest thing in the world to let go. But the reality is when you let go, it is so much easier to not be gripping and clinging and gritting your teeth. Like there's so much force and just activity that's needed to continue to resist and push against things. And once you get the experience of what it's like to surrender and let go and release, we talk about making it easeful and what if it was effortless, it becomes difficult to go back to resisting. Because it is so painful and uncomfortable and challenging to try to push against the boulders. It's so much easier to surrender and let go and allow yourself to flow with life.
Yeah, it takes so much energy to fight.
Right. It takes so much
resist.
energy. And that's a really great clue too, especially if you're newer on the journey where you're trying to figure out, we talk about being in alignment and what's right for you. It's a really great clue. If you are doing something and it drains your energy, you are going against resistance. You are going against the grain. And sometimes it can be confusing because it could be something that you loved and it used to fill you up. It used to fill you with energy, but just pay attention. It's like, if you are doing something and you feel zapped, then that is something that you are resisting letting go. And then if there's other things in your life where you'll notice you could be zapped from a day's work and you get home and you get into something that you do just for pleasure and craft and enjoyment, and suddenly it's like you could stay up all night because you're so filled with source energy pouring through you. And so paying attention to those indicators and trusting that is the flow of energy moving through you. And so when you're in alignment with it, that means that you're going along with it. And so it's like being that canoe in the river and allowing yourself to be carried by the source energy rather than pushing against it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Karen just touched upon a lot of my points, so geez, I have to think of new ones now. Coming back to it, and I love how we're almost all kind of coming together here on a similar idea of getting out of the way and letting the thing happen. So my takeaway, and that I would love to share with you guys, is what, again, my mantra is at the moment is just, what if it was effortless? And this is my actual practice right now, right? So this isn't just me just theorizing and blah, blah, blahing to you. This is what I do every day now, is I've just been saying to myself, what if it's effortless? And it's really just been transforming the way that I do everything, the way that I teach, the way that I, do meditations, the way that I hold healing space, and, just the way that I do life in general. That I really let the vibration speak for itself, and I don't worry too much about the stuff within that. I also saw for myself as a meditation teacher and stuff, when I show up as a teacher or a healer, it might then force people to show up as broken, right? If I show up as knowing, it forces someone else or parts of them to show up that don't know. And even though sometimes it feels like we're doing something good, it might actually be a disempowering dynamic that we're keeping alive. So for me, really also just seeing everybody as whole, everybody is already there. Everybody's already got it, and we just have to remember. And remembering, it's really just changing our attention. So it really just comes down to moment by moment. There's nothing to let go of, right? There's nothing to heal. There's nothing to do. It's actually just, what are you choosing in this moment? Are you choosing to focus on pain? Are you choosing to focus on resistance? Are you choosing to focus on stuckness? Or are you choosing to focus on how it feels to have what you want? To focus on gratitude? To focus on everything you already do have? To focus on the reality that you're creating? And that is our power in this life, is we get to decide where we focus. So I'd love to leave you with that.
Well said. Well done, everyone. This is our stand-up comedy.
Three Kings.
Yes. Thanks for coming out, everyone. No, this has been really cool. Super appreciate you guys for being such good sports to jump on.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And yeah, once again, if you guys are going to be in LA or can make it LA and want to come check out the full
New Year's Eve Prosperity Portal,
Indeed.
a 3-phase workshop.
Yeah, just check out. Well, I'll put links once again, and otherwise, yeah, thank you all for tuning your beautiful brainwaves and incredible hearts into another episode.
Journey well, my friends.
Stay positive.
I don't have a catchphrase.
Bye for now. Love you guys.